Hello everyone and welcome back to game week 3 of the 2025-26 Slater and Gordon Premiership, where you join myself, Ryan Sipple, alongside Ben Rogers for the Teesside derby, sorry. We've got Teesside, they're comprised of Ed Common, Greg Baxter, Dylan Pearson, Mitch Tinkler, Tyler Reeve and Alistair Hay. And for Middlesbrough, they have the following: Ethan Galloway, James Found, Kath Goldsborough, Carl Forster, Umar Hanif, Thomas Pettigrew, Eddie Renton no longer available. So a really fascinating fixture at different ends of the standings. Teesside looking to continue their fantastic form here following an emphatic 9-0 victory over bottom of the table Muscle Warriors earlier today. They were simply sensational in that one. But just as big as achievement was the opener for Middlesbrough, where they faced Aspire PFC and managed to keep it at a deadlock 0-0. One that was certainly 2 points dropped for the aspiring Aspire squad. Teams have completed their speed tests and they're getting their final instructions. And we are soon to be underway. Ben, do you think this this game has one outcome and one outcome only, or do you see a world in which Middlesbrough can frustrate and get something from it?
I do think that Teesside definitely have the better of the chances of winning. However, I thought that Aspire would win against Middlesbrough earlier, but they managed to keep them and restrain them to a draw. So I feel like Middlesbrough can definitely frustrate teams and maybe get that draw. Maybe they might even be able to get a sneaky goal. But I think overall Teesside have the better chance of winning and definitely will probably have most of the share of the possession and the attack.
Yeah, the two sides met in game week 2 of the competition back in December. On that occasion, Teesside were 4-0 victors, so they'll no doubt be wanting to replicate that here as they are in hot pursuit of the summit of the standings. Let's show you the live league standings while we're at it, just so you can see where things are. So a win for Teesside would take them on to 25 points. They now have the best goal difference in the division on plus 30. So a win here would see them go to top, which is not bad at all. Aspire have dropped points. Leeds look formidable, but everyone still has to play everyone else in either game weeks 3, 4 and 5. It's these games where you cannot afford to drop points. But Middlesbrough, as shown, have now got a little bit of buffer over the jeopardy spots at the bottom. So whoever finishes in 11th and 12th is automatically relegated to next season's championship. Whoever finishes 10th plays whoever finishes 3rd in said championship for the final Premiership position. So if and where possible, Middlesbrough will not only want to avoid 11th and 12th, they will want to avoid 10th as well. But based on the opening 10-11 games or so, I would certainly have them doing that, because they have such a solid defence.
I definitely think Middlesbrough's defence is their best attribute, especially with Found in goal. He's very brave in taking the ball out when it's coming towards goal and getting it back up the pitch so it doesn't really get into their defensive box.
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. And the system that they have created to ensure Umar Hanif and James Found play to the best of their abilities and just slot into each other is so good. Omar Hanif, one of the strongest players in the division, will never back down from a 50-50. We know the quality that Caf Goldsborough has. Cole Forster is a senior international for Northern Ireland for a reason and impressed at the recent EPFA Nations Cup. So they have a quality squad, not to mention the 2 Scotland internationals on the bench, one of which is the country's captain. So whilst I very much assume Teesside will come away with the 3 points, I don't think it will be as simple as their earlier against Muscle Warriors. Kicking off at the same time, on court A, GBG Knight versus Greenbank. Maybe somewhat of a challenge for our viewers to distinguish between the 2 sides, both wearing green and black in some variation. But here, very much a contrast from 2 fierce local rivals. The squads as they line up, Greg Baxter, absolutely sensational in that earlier win. In goal, Tyler Reeve, Ed Common and Mitch Tinkler. And for Middlesbrough, James Found, Umar Hanif, Kath Goldsborough and Kyle Forster.
It's a free kick here for Middlesbrough. I think it was 2-1.
Come on. Umar Hanif fires it diagonally across the court, ricochets off the front of
Kath trying to get past. Can't quite. Ed Common taking the ball up the pitch.
Reeve. Down to Umar Hanif, just delays that contact to try and open up the angle to Kyle Forster.
The
Common.
opening of this game right now, not too much passing movement, quite a hectic start, but Teesside definitely.
It was only 2-0 going into the half-time break against Muscle Warriors, and I don't know, left a little bit underwhelmed by the performance of Teesside, and I suppose that's relative to what I've come to expect, that they always play this exciting brand of attacking football, and I hold them in a higher regard, but my God, did they impress in the second. But what I'm trying to say is they took 20 minutes to really find their rhythm. Hopefully, for them certainly, they can do it a little bit quicker now. We know the game plan for Middlesbrough: sit back, stay compact, stay disciplined and frustrate them, just as they did against Aspire.
Yeah, that game against Aspire, they were definitely very defensive, but they managed to stop every shot, so I'm guessing for more of that in this game.
Reeve into Mitch Tinkler, the current league top goal scorer, with a hat-trick earlier today.
Both players missed the ball there. So it goes out for a Middlesbrough kick in.
Yeah, Kath Goldsborough over to take. Carl Forster coming central to show as an option. Has to be careful of his position with Umar Hanif, who takes control of the ball. Quickly met by Tyler Reeve, formerly of Middlesbrough, of course.
Middlesbrough, another sideline ball. Maybe they can get the ball up the pitch.
Ricochets between Carl Forster and Ed Common. Just waiting patiently. Yeah, sensible play that from Tyler Reeve.
Just lets it go out for a goal kick.
Yeah, feints to engage it. And then happy to let that roll off the bumper of Carl Forster. But 4 minutes in, they haven't really had any goal scoring opportunities, Teesside. And in that Muscle Warriors game, Tyler Reeve had the ball in the net in the first 5 seconds. I personally think it should have stood. I think he was deemed a little bit too aggressive in his pursuit of that opener. But it shows that they can start quickly if they want to. But they'll know this is a 40-minute fixture. They don't need to overexert themselves. They know there's the option of flexibility. Tactically, bring in Greg Baxter out wide, which worked to perfection earlier. In that one, Ed Common adorned the green goalkeeper jersey. So whilst they don't have a huge squad in terms of numbers, they've got a very versatile squad that can operate in different areas and different roles. Umar Hanif looking at Kath Goldra in the centre, who he opts to find. Couldn't quite get the punch on that front bumper over to Carl Forster.
I think Teesside will try and just wear Middlesbrough down, maybe. Try and get the ball.
Yeah, that they certainly would have seen that earlier 0-0 draw with Aspire, and it doesn't matter how they win as long as they win. So, to my point, they don't need to rush it. They don't need to overcommit to leave vulnerabilities in behind. And we will see them just edge up this court slowly but surely. On that occasion, the ball rolls out. There's a lot of intensity wrapped up in this fixture. And that has been the case for many years, being such fierce rivals.
Another sideline ball here for Middlesbrough. Taken, but not quite used.
Locked in a 50-50. Umar Hanif and Tyler Reeve. This is the shape you need to see for Teesside. They're very conservative. Tyler Reeve, it's the one-man show up there. Ed Common far on the left now presents something of an option.
Not really got any options.
No, he doesn't. And this is an interesting game plan from Teesside. To your point, I don't think they're really too worried. They're just steadily going about their business, managing that energy ahead of potentially some tougher tests in game week 3. They play Sevenoaks and West Bromwich Albion tomorrow.
Just goes out there, not very. Tried to go for the back post, wasn't really an option. Middlesbrough get a goal kick. But well closed down there.
Just jumping ahead slightly, if we assess game week 5 for Teesside, they play Aspire, West Brom, Newcastle, Greenbank and Leeds in consecutive games. An incredible run to conclude the 25-26 season. And if they're going to be crowned 2-time champions, they're going to have to do it in style against the very best on the final weekend. So these games matter so much, just getting 3 points to ensure you're always hot on the heels or you're leading the pack.
First corner here from Teesside.
They're very effective, them typically. Keep an eye on Mitch Tinkler, goes through to him, but just didn't have the angle. The longer this goes on like this, as shown and referenced by Aspire, the more frustrated that Teesside will become. And with frustration comes mistakes and complacency.
Yeah, I think Middlesbrough are one of the best teams at frustrating the opponents. Just locking them up, preventing the goal chance by just knowing exactly where the ball's going to go. And you need something special to score against Middlesbrough. It's not as easy as just putting it in the net.
Tinkler lines up, potential break on via Kath Goldsborough. I don't think Greg Baxter has had a touch in the 9 minutes we've played.
Just goes behind there for a goal kick.
Reeve into Tinkler. Nice flick down to Ed Common. Has Tyler Reeve in the centre, who he finds is starting to open up a little bit into the 180 of Mitch Tinkler. Back to Tyler Reeve via Ed Common, starting to combine, create those big triangles. And you can see when they stretch Middlesbrough, they can punish Middlesbrough. And they come away with a 2-on-1 indirect free kick. And we know that they're one of the best teams in the country, in the world even, at capitalising with these set pieces. Very unique in their approach. You never know what they're going to do. Always keeps the opposition and us commentators guessing. Looks like they're lining up for the boom boom on this occasion. Keep an eye on Mitch Tinkler, though. Maybe there to tap it in. It is the boom boom. Closed down beautifully by Umar Hanif and James Found. A secondary clearance from James Found. Lets Kath Goldsborough take her shape in the defensive ball. Contact from James Found there. But Mitch Tinkler is deemed the aggressor.
That was a very powerful shot, but for that free kick that just happened. But I think Middlesbrough knew exactly where it was going, so they could close it off really quickly.
Big round of applause from Caroline Goldsborough on the far side. Punched into the path of Ed Common, closed by James Found. They're starting to stretch them. It's taken over 10 minutes to do so. So Middlesbrough will want to focus on regaining that shape, that composure, that compactness. Otherwise, it will gift Teesside the chance, and when given the chance, they will punish you. Many better teams have been on the receiving end of that quality. Ethan Galloway now on in place of Carl Forster.
Some good dribbling skills there from Hanif. But they win a kick in quite high up. Kath decides to take it quickly. Goes out. Another sideline ball.
Confirmation of that earlier change. Not quite sure what the option is here. There is no gap in that defence, so it's only going to fire off a Teesside chair unless she's trying to play for a corner. Nice angle in from Greg Baxter, followed up by Umar Hanif. It's been a good game of football, very even, very cagey as Ethan Galloway swipes an effort towards goal.
Just wide.
But luckily gets the 2-on-1 before that due to the condensed defence with Ed Common and Tyler Reeve too close to one another. So an attempt on goal and a 2-on-1, not bad for Ethan Galloway. Can they capitalise though? That is the question, because this Teesside defence hasn't been tested a great deal all season. That's disappointing.
Good defending there.
Yeah, it's just, I think Umar Hanif was slightly unaware as to Tinkler's placement. Had he just looked to his left, would have seen that option to Kath Goldsborough just simply wasn't on. And those rare 2-on-1s, those rare indirect free kicks that you have in your favour, you have to take. You have to at least threaten the goal of the opponent because they're few and far between, because typically Teesside have a very disciplined structure, don't give away a great deal of 2-on-1s.
Kath just gets away there, but well defended by Tyler Reeves. Common just playing that off Kath to get a sideline ball.
Common down to Mitch Tinkler, who's been fairly isolated, hasn't been able to impart his influence, but we know he's almost like just a clinical poacher. He's there to put the ball in the back of the net, and it's the combination of Ed Common and Tyler Reeve typically, and certainly if they're shaped how they currently are, to do that creation, do that dirty work. Reeve into the space, just pushed down the line by...
Swing and a miss there by Hanif. had he managed to connect with that, it might have caused an attack.
Crossfield ball to Mitch Tinkler into the 180. That's probably the best chance they've had all game, but easy for Umar Hanif to read and thwart. They are edging up slowly but surely. But again, we go back to that defensive pair of Umar Hanif and James Found. So comfortable at this level now. Nothing seems to faze them. Typically because of the commentator now as goes through to Mitch Tinkler, but an interception, lot of pace. Otherwise, Kath Goldberg could have guided it down the court.
Yeah, not very many chances really for Middlesbrough at the moment. Kind of just weathering the storm of Teesside, but they've not really made...
It was always going to be the case though, wasn't it? Mitch Tinkler getting stuck in. Happy to let that roll out.
Wins the sideline ball.
.5 minutes. Teesside nil, Middlesbrough nil. Into Tinkler, 180, blocked by the back wheel of James Found.
That could have ricocheted anywhere though.
I don't disagree necessarily, but I think James Found and Umar Hanif, for that matter, are always considerate of their chair shape, their chair angle. So even if the ball does come over, they know it's rebounding wide or out rather than towards their own goal. And it's something I challenged Muscle Warriors to do earlier. Some of their players need to always be considerate of the shape. If a ball collides with you, think about the trajectory, think about the angles, and ensure that ricochets and rebounds are favourable rather than to your detriment.
Yeah, I think that would have been really unlucky had it ricocheted into the net with the way they had their chairs.
Nicely pushed into the centre by Scotland captain Ethan Galloway. We saw his international teammate Kieran Steer influence the Newcastle United Foundation win about 20 minutes ago over West Bromwich Albion Throstles. Plenty of international superstars on show. From Ireland to Northern Ireland to Denmark, Australia, United States of America. This is the place to be.
It's like another free kick here for Middlesbrough.
Umar Hanif to take. Ethan Galloway has to be careful of his placement.
Cav can't quite get the power on to get it to Galloway there.
Flicked into the centre. So condensed in the centre. Pretty much exclusively, you've got those 6 outfield players drawn into the centre circle. It's actually been pretty remarkable that we haven't had a higher prevalence of 2-on-1s. We're approaching the final minute, and once again it's Middlesbrough who are the talk of the town. Absolutely incredible defensive effort. Don't look phased at all.
I don't think Teesside's really had, apart from, well, every shot they've had has been blocked. So.
There's been no real clear-cut chances, has there? And I wonder whether we see the change at half-time, which was observed during their fixture against Muscle Warriors with Greg Baxter coming off. Certainly, sorry, not coming off necessarily, but coming outfield with Ed Common as the deepest. That just unlocks their potential in that one, and I suspect that will be replicated, but a late chance for Middlesbrough, controlled by Kath Goldborough, who guides it to Greg Baxter for one of his first touches of the game. 19 minutes in, Pete Taylor just calling Tyler Reeve over. I think there was an advantage played in and amongst that attack. Big smile on the face of Greg Baxter.
I think he's happy that he finally got a chance to defend a goal.
It's going to be a late opportunity for Middlesbrough. Borough just positioning, slightly rushed. Interception from Tyler Reeve. That's a mistake into the 180 of Mitch Tinkler. It's a little bit complacent. I'd want them to be a little bit more careful. That was always going to go and fall kindly to Tyler Reeve. And if you make mistakes against the best, they will punish you. Just fortunate for them on that occasion, they didn't. They've got a late storm to weather and the half-time break. 2-on-1 in favour of Middlesbrough.
It's probably be the last act of the half.
Yeah, I certainly think so. I think there'll be very contrasting team talks. I think the Borough squad have executed Carolyn Goldsborough's plans to a T. Quite the opposite for Teesside, who will have somewhat of an inquisition to understand what is not working and what they need to change to ensure this ends in 3 points. Thank you to all that are tuning in, to myself and Ben. We'll be back very shortly for the second. Hello everyone and welcome back to the second half of Teesside versus Middlesbrough in Game Week 3 of the 25-26 Slater and Gordon Premiership. We're joining myself, Ryan Sipple, alongside Ben Rogers for the action live. Ben, give me your assessments from that first half.
I think from the first half, Middlesbrough would definitely be the happier of the two teams, keeping it 0-0. But I think Teesside would definitely be looking to get more on the front foot here by just taking the ball to Middlesbrough and trying to pass it round them. I think if Teesside manage to get those passing moves going and keep Middlesbrough out of the game, they can definitely take the 3 points.
Yeah, I completely agree. Pete Taylor gets the thumbs up from the keepers. Gets the approval, and we are underway. Teesside back on the front foot. Trying to find the opener. They're going to have to do what they weren't able to do in the first 20. Try and pick the lock, the stubborn lock that is Middlesbrough. Mainly Umar Hanif and James Found. They didn't have many chances, did they really, Ben? Certainly clear-cut chances anyway.
No, I think the only chance really was that free kick where they did the boom. But even then, Middlesbrough still came across and managed to. They knew what was happening and they just were ready for what was coming.
Yeah, completely agree. They didn't make that change. I suspected that they would, bringing Greg Baxter out, so they're persisting with what they ended the first half with, as is Middlesbrough. James Found, Umar Hanif, Kath Goldsborough, Ethan Galloway for Middlesbrough. Greg Baxter, Tyler Reeve, Mitch Tinkler and Ed Common for the champions.
Tyler Reeve just need to get that ball a bit closer to Ed Common there. Just went behind him.
Umar Hanif, laser focus on that ball, trying to entice Ed Common, one of the best players that's ever graced the Powerchair Football court. Bypassing him is far easier said than done. The same can be applied to Tyler Reeve, who's just forcing the ball into the back wheel of Kath Goldsborough. It's a really good battle, and I love the fact that play has been allowed to continue.
Yeah, that was heavy contact
From Pete Taylor, but it's the beauty of the English game that if there is a chance, if there is an advantage to be had, it will be given. And it doesn't see the play stop-start, as we have seen at international level on occasions. But that persistence, that bravery, that strength from Tyler Reeve has earned them a sideline ball into Ed Common, across to Mitch Tinkler in a very congested box, and he sees the gap, but it comes off of James Found's share. That's really unfortunate. They covered the option of Mitch Tinkler. That wasn't there.
but they just didn't have the near post covered. I think it just was too far in front of James Found, and it just came off the front. There's nothing really could have done there.
There really isn't nothing that James Found could have done to prevent it. It's really unfortunate. You have to give Teesside credit. They were knocking on the door. They were finding the gaps, the spaces. But Middlesbrough put a lot of their eggs in the basket of covering Mitch Tinkler, who we know he's so proficient. He is the poacher. He's the league's top goal scorer. And in doing so, it just opened this huge gap at the near post. And it meant that that ricochet and the chair angles that we was referencing in the first half couldn't be avoided. Teesside have their opener, and I wonder if they push on now to inflict further damage. Will we see Middlesbrough come out, be more attacking, be more proactive to try and get back into this game, knowing doing that could leave huge vulnerabilities in behind?
I think Middlesbrough definitely wants to conserve their goal difference. Maybe that at the end of the season, that could be what is the difference between 10th and 9th.
I don't disagree at all. And as it stands currently, they have a far more favourable goal difference, but they'll want to ensure that they control the damage here if it is to result in a loss. I think they're on minus 12 goals now, which is slightly better than, I think Flossel was above them on minus 11.
Very good flick there, but not. Tyler Reeves managed to get on the end of it.
He just pushes and barges and bullies his way through. Such a strong player. No appeals from Middlesbrough. They give as good as they get. And it ricochets over to Mitch Tinkler. Just didn't have the starting angle to get that front bumper on it. Over to Ed Common, who comes across, nearly colliding with their head coach, Owen Swift, in the process.
It's not a very good hit there. I think just a bit too far away from the ball. Couldn't quite get the purchase.
Yeah, it's the balancing act, isn't it? It's taking it quick to try and catch your opposition set in, but also ensuring that you're completely ready with the timing and the connection and the rotation, which Kath Goldsworth just wasn't on that occasion. Ed Common looking around him constantly into Mitch Tinkler, just pushes it into the space.
Nobody on the back post,
No,
really.
there's no intent there. It's disappointing because Tyler Reeve was never going to make up the ground. But you can see blue shirts around this set piece. They are waiting to capitalise into Mitch Tinkler.
Probably the worst place to take a kick in.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get it out.
Certainly when you've got a brave team like Teesside that commit 3 players forward constantly. Tyler Reeve is communicating on the edge, just letting Mitch Tinkler know he's there.
Kath just pushes that past him. But
It's well read that by Umar Hanif. Again, so strong. A little bit of contact that from Umar Hanif. That's just ridiculously strong play from Tyler Reeve. He does not give up anything. He is a nightmare to come up against.
couldn't quite get, if he got the connection on that ball, it might have gone across to Ed Common, but he didn't quite get it.
Ben, from your time playing in the Championship, who would you compare to Tyler Reeve, that really strong central dribbler?
I mean, I played against a lot of players who are really strong in the dribble like that, but I think from players that come to mind, I've got to say, I think there's a couple that come to mind, but I think Mason Hindley was really, when he was in the Championship.
That's a perfect player to reference. Sadly not playing this season, but in terms of a player that strong in the dribble, it's a fine line that borders on kind of contact fouls or aggressive play. Yeah, Mason Hindley most definitely played in a very similar fashion. The difference with Tyler Reeve is he can mix it up and he can play that exciting, expansive football as well. He's got everything in his arsenal.
Kath just manages to get round that. Relieve some pressure maybe from Teesside, get the ball up the pitch.
It's nice play.
Really good pick off there to get it to Galloway.
He just needs to stay in reverse though. Just needs to stay in reverse.
Yeah, that time to spin around was taking it, so he never was going to get round it. Really good pick off there. It's a risky play there to hit it straight at Teesside player.
29 minutes played. Teesside, a goal to the good. Lone goal off James Found.
So they should have probably tried to get that across to Mitchell Tinkler. There was a gap.
Yeah, they're trying to work it over to him. They do so. But cleared by James Found. Back to Ed Common. Squeezes it through the gap. Unselfish. Looking to return the favour. Be interesting to see what he can do here. James Found does brilliantly to read the trajectory of the ball.
I think he's trying to get the crossfield pass there.
You can probably hear the metal on metal when Tyler is advancing up the court.
Manages to get the pass away as well.
You can see what he's looking for, that front bumper of Ed Common. I've seen it on so many occasions. Ed Common just times his advancement up the court perfectly to meet that crossfield ball, whether that's direct shot on goal or slotting it down to Mitch Tinkler on this wing. Swing and a miss from James Found. And we're going to get a substitute. Carl Forster coming back on in place of Ethan Galloway. Kath Goldsborough off for Thomas Pettigrew. So a double change. Can they inject a little bit of impetus, a little bit of energy?
Yeah, it was quite risky when he took that spin just a second ago, but it was always going wide. I think even though Teesside only 1-0 up, so there's always a chance Middlesbrough can get a goal on the attack, but it's...
Not quite sure why Mitch Tinkler didn't pull the trigger there. Whether he thought he just didn't have the angle to capitalise, but it was nice play nonetheless. Teesside unchanged, but they do have an indirect free kick here, an opportunity to impress.
Doesn't look like they're going to go for a boom. I think they're going to try and pass it wide maybe.
I think the front bumper of Ed Common, direct towards goal from Tyler Reeve into Mitch Tinkler. Just takes the weight off that. I think the ball has gone out on that far side. It's hard to tell from our angle.
I think that might have been Greg Baxter's first touch of the half.
Yeah, similar to the first 20 minutes, very isolated, mainly a spectator. Teesside sideline ball. Tyler Reeve at the foot, which he receives back to Ed Common, just flicks it goal bound. Now into the path of Mitch Tinkler, cut out by James Found. Carl Forster now.
Can't get the pace on that ball.
I know these two number 10s are close friends. I think they go to the same school, so will know each other inside and out. It's been a very high tolerance of kind of physicality in this one, policed by Pete Taylor.
Can't quite. Wins a kick in though. I think they'll try and get this one across.
Yeah, what they typically do is use Ed Common as the screen, the dummy, and then it goes through to Mitch Tinkler. That time didn't necessarily have the accuracy on the initial ball. but they're now right on the edge, which will provide a nice angle through to Mitch Tinkler. Had it not been for James Found reading the opportunity. Feint on the 180, up before 2-on-1, awarded in favour of Middlesbrough.
They're going to probably try and get this one. Hanif.
Meanwhile, Hanif just colliding with Mitch Tinkler on his rotation. No malice. Having watched Teesside earlier today pick off, I'd ask you the question, Ben. Is this Middlesbrough nullifying and negating Teesside's quality, or is this Teesside not hitting the heights we've come to expect?
I think Teesside definitely can pass the ball around better. I think Middlesbrough are doing a very good job in just nullifying those passing lanes, intercepting the balls, stopping Teesside players getting in the positions they want to get in to get those passes away. So I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah, having seen Teesside earlier completely dismantle Muscle Warriors 9-0 in spectacular fashion as well. I know they can do it. They've done it today. But I'd have to give credit to Middlesbrough. We're going to have a chance here. Sorry, Teesside going to have a chance.
Just passes the near post there. There was no gap, really. I think Middlesbrough had it covered.
I mean, even if this ends in defeat for Middlesbrough, they will take a lot of positives from the fact that they can mix it with the very best. They can secure a point against Aspire. They can really limit the damage against champions Teesside. It's just about creating and that attacking element of their game. And the challenge would be not necessarily against Aspire or Teesside or Leeds, but against some of the teams in and around them in the stand-ins, that they're more proactive, they're more brave, because they've got the foundation to really take the game to the opposition. Leeds is their next game tomorrow, so they would have gone from Aspire to Teesside to Leeds, and not many would have given them a hope in any. So the fact they've got 1 point already from the 3 registers a successful return. And then they end against Villa Rockets Lions, a team equally as stubborn as defensive. So that will be a fascinating one.
I think Teesside needs to try and get the passes going a bit more. I think that's how they'll open up Middlesbrough.
Dylan Pearson coming on in place of Mitch Tinkler. So Mitch Tinkler unable to add to his impressive tally. Into Thomas Pettigrew, over to Dylan Pearson, into the 180 for his first touch.
Manages to recycle the ball as well.
Slightly forced from Ed Common. Reeve into the dribble of Common.
Nearly squeezes it through that little gap.
He's persistent. Good play from Umar Hanif. He plays it off the back of Ed Common. Final 2 minutes of the tie. Just an own goal that separates them. If we reference the scoreline on Court A, Greenbank looking to make it 2 consecutive 4-0 victories in game day 1 of game week 3 of the 25-26 Slater and Gordon Premiership. A great start for them. I'll bring up the live league standings at the conclusion, for which you will see Teesside are currently top due to that superior goal difference over Leeds, but they sit on the same point and the same games played.
I think Teesside are just going to slow down this game now, keep right out that 1-0 win. They don't need to risk anything, really. It's all about game management at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Final minute, Ben. Give me a player of the match. As it goes over to Dylan Pearson, the gap appeared. That's disappointing from that brilliant defence of Middlesbrough. They've remained resolute the whole game, but do not underestimate the role that Ed Common plays in that. He so often acts as the screen. He backs off at the last second. It was millimetres away from his bumper, and it just slotted through to Dylan Pearson on the far side, who makes immediate impact following his substitution. Teesside 2, Middlesbrough 0.
Good hit there by Henny. Straight at Greg Baxter.
Who's your player of the match then, Ben?
I mean, I could give it... There's not really been any real full standout player, but I think... I think I'll give it to Ed Common just for that assist on that last goal. He's been probably key to all the attacks, and I think he's just been a little bit better than the rest.
Yeah, I would probably tip towards Tyler Reeve. I think
I could
he's
have given it
so strong.
Yeah.
Dylan Pearson has to be careful there.
I think I could have given it to any of the either of those two, really.
Either way, it's a well-earned, hard-fought win, which maintains momentum in the title race, and that is the full-time whistle from Pete Taylor, who was brilliant, by the way, overseeing the action. As promised, the live league standings, you can see that does put Teesside top of the table. 10 games played, 8 games won, a plus 32 goal difference, the same amount of points as Leeds PFC, with all three of those top three on 10 games apiece. And look how close it is. But do we go back to those dropped points from Aspire? Will we go back to those dropped points from Aspire come season's end? Who knows? Middlesbrough stay in 9th on 8 points, far from a disgrace, and they have somewhat of a buffer, certainly over the relegation zone. Thank you to all that have tuned in to myself and Ben Rogers. Join us for follow-up games in Game Week 3 of the 25-26 Slater and Gordon Premiership.